Welcome to the Last Week in Denmark podcast. Each week we're here to talk through Danish news, stories, and developments and how they impact internationals living here. If you're an international living in Denmark or thinking of moving here, you'll want to check out many of these episodes. We've got 5 full seasons ready for you to explore, and season 6 restarting after the summer. I'm Dom, and I'm here with Katie. Today we are going to discuss the Diabetes Association traveling around Denmark to raise awareness, Denmark's first national swimming recommendations, artificial intelligence classes in schools, and to finish it off, we have a heartwarming story about the power of community in Denmark. Before we get going, though, we'd like to ask one thing. If what we're talking about resonates with you, please leave a comment for us on Spotify or YouTube. We're here to help internationals in Denmark stay informed and feel connected. Thanks for helping us reach more people like you. So, hello, Katie. How are you doing on the last days of May?
Oh my God, I can't believe it. I can't believe it's the summer. I can't believe it's basically June. I can't believe we're at the end of this season for the podcast. I feel like we just started. It's crazy.
I know. I can't believe we're mid-2026. That is insane to me.
That's stressful. It didn't feel that way in April, which is confusing because April was not that long ago. But at the same time, now I'm like, oh my God, the year is nearly over. It's practically Christmas.
I know. I still sometimes accidentally write 2025. So, yeah.
I just stopped writing years.
They do say that times go by faster when you get older, and I guess that's what they meant, and I don't like it.
I think it depends on the week. I feel like in the moment, particularly the working days, it's very like, oh, when will this ever end? How is it still only Tuesday? And then you look back and you're like, excuse me, what did I do for the last 6 months? Who am I?
Exactly. Yeah, it's very weird. But, well, the positive thing is that summer is coming. We have some sun, and
lots of sun.
Yeah, soon Denmark's going to be all happy people and beer.
So much beer. Much beer.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so are you ready to dive into our topics for the day?
Yeah, super excited for the last time this season to go through these topics.
Exactly. It's a big episode today, and I think we have some interesting topics. So I think to start it off, we can start with our Diabetes Association topic. It's estimated that around 100,000 people in Denmark live with type 2 diabetes without knowing it, and there's 500,000 that have pre-existing conditions for the disease. So that's why the Diabetes Association Health Bus will travel around the country to let people get tested. Have you ever seen that bus around, or have you used it?
I think I have seen it, but it was in Copenhagen train station, and I was waiting for a train, and I was also drinking a very large McDonald's Coca-Cola when I saw it. So I didn't really, because they just have it's like a big red bus that says blood sugar on it. And I was like, ooh, maybe not today. But I think it's a great idea. And it was Copenhagen train station is pretty big in the sense that there's a lot of space. There's a lot of things that could fit in there. And it definitely drew me in and attracted people to it. So I think in terms of grabbing people's attention and getting awareness, yes, I have seen them and I remember them. And then when I saw this story, I was like, that's what that was. It wasn't just people.
That's what it was.
In a van somewhere.
Very sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually didn't know that it's touring all around the country, basically until November. So it has started in the 6th of May in Næstved, and it's going to tour all the way until November 14th, and it's going to finish in Aarhus. So it is going to visit you.
Yes, yeah. Maybe I will attempt to speak to them and find out if I have any symptoms. But it's one of these things, obviously I saw the bus before and I was like, oh, that's cool that Denmark does that. But it was only this topic that I started looking into type 2 diabetes because it's something I feel like I know. It kind of floats around. A lot of my friends' parents have it. My dad has it and has had it for, I think, over 10 years now. So I kind of just think of okay. And my dad I don't think he's the ideal patient. If he wants more chocolate, he just does something different with his insulin. So I don't know that he's doing it.
Oh, is it that easy?
I mean, he says it is. I wouldn't go to him for medical advice is my personal recommendation there. But I suppose it was something that I didn't know too much about. And it kind of prompted me to challenge some of my biases as well. Because I think in my mind, and I assume I got this from media and television. I'm not sure where I got it from. But I thought you had to be overweight to get type 2 diabetes. And that's just not at all true. It increases your risk of type 2 diabetes, but it's your weight is not an indicator of whether you can have type 2 diabetes or not. I also had a moment of like, what is type 2 diabetes? Like, what does that actually mean? And I think most people do know this, but just in case, it is when your body becomes resistant to insulin or doesn't produce enough insulin, leading to high blood sugar, which sounds pretty harmless, right? But then I started looking into the symptoms. Like, so when we get to like extreme symptoms and like the extreme effects, if you don't catch the type 2 diabetes early signals, and sometimes there's no signals for type 2 diabetes, it's just sitting there happening inside your body, but you can get damage to your retina. You can have blurred vision that won't improve, and you can completely lose your vision. You can get kidney damage. So there's like diabetic kidney disease, very specifically related to diabetes.
Yeah.
You can get protein leaking into the urine, swelling in the feet and ankles, and in severe cases, complete kidney failure. You can get nerve damage, numbness, tingling, burning, or pain in your feet and hands, loss of sensation, and increasing risk of unnoticed injuries, digestive problems, dizziness when standing, or sexual dysfunction. Pretty big deal. And then in terms of like heart disease, you have a higher risk of coronary artery disease, stroke, high blood pressure, poor circulation in your legs. Slow healing wounds comes up a lot. You can get foot ulcers, which I've never heard of and sound terrible, serious infections, and you can get amputation, which I feel like I've only seen in hospital shows, but like it can happen. And then you can also, just in terms of your skin, you can get frequent bacterial or fungal infections, itching and skin changes, or poor wound healing, which all sounds very serious.
Oh boy.
And I feel like we have not been warned enough about what can happen if you don't catch this. So I'm very happy about the bus, personally.
True. I feel like the Diabetes Association should pay you for this episode, because now I'm definitely going to get tested. I'm such a hypochondriac. I'm going to feel all of these things tonight and be like, oh no, my feet are tingling.
I did, because I also got one of the early signs, and I'm like, am I going to make everybody flock to the doctor's office if I go through them?
But it's good. If the bus is there and it's free, I think we should definitely make use of it. That's one of the great things about Denmark, that there's all these opportunities to get tested and make sure that you're okay, and we should use it, because it's true. There is I guess like a belief that only overweight older people can get it, which does make it more likely, but you can get type 2 diabetes at any age, especially if you have a sitting job. And I guess at this point we should add a disclaimer that neither of us are medical professionals, so none of this constitutes medical advice.
You don't know anything about me.
Please don't sue us. Oh, yeah.
As a customer success manager in diabetes. No. But yeah, I was surprised by the risk factors. So is you can have, if you have a family history of diabetes, which I do, older age, matter of opinion, not quite there yet, I think. Physical inactivity, depends on the day, but yes, often. If you have certain ethnic backgrounds, you're more prone to type 2 diabetes. If you have a history of gestational diabetes during pregnancy, which is a terrible thing I learned about recently, where just when you're pregnant, you just become diabetic. And there's a 50-50 chance it will stay that way. And if you have conditions associated with insulin resistance, such as polycystic ovary syndrome, super, super common in women. So just something else that makes PCOS terrible. And then high blood pressure or abnormal cholesterol levels, they can all be increasing the risk of you having type 2 diabetes. Please don't panic. Okay,
please don't panic, but go get tested while the bus is there. And it's also very fast, because basically you go to the bus and they just ask you a few questions about your risk factors, and then they just do the test, and it's very quick. And even for someone like me who's scared of needles, it's fine. It's just a little prick, and then you get the result right away. So I think it's such a great opportunity to get tested, and everyone should do it.
Yeah, for sure. I also, when I was looking at if you get early symptoms, like they sound so normal to me, or like particularly in summer, for example, increased thirst and frequent urination. I'm kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's sunny. I need 7 beers. It's the only way I'm going to get through the day. Does that count as thirsty? I'm not sure. But also increased hunger, which honestly, all the time, or especially in winter when you need more comfort. What is normal hunger? Fatigue, yes, that's adulthood. Blurred vision, slow healing sores.
After the 5 beers, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when you put it all together.
That's just a night out, loss, basically.
Which I was surprised by. And then darkened skin areas, which I've not really heard of before. So often around the neck or armpits. And then tingling pain. So Don't pay attention to your hands and feet, maybe, if you're a hypochondriac.
No, I won't. But I think the good news is also if you catch it early, it's easier to manage. And it is, it's completely manageable. We're in the 21st century, so there's no reason to panic.
Yeah, and if you go by my dad's rules, then you can eat whatever you want. You just need to figure out how to game the system. I'm sure there's no negative consequences whatsoever.
No, I'm sure there isn't. Well, okay, speaking of no negative consequences, I guess we could move on to our next topic, which is we have the first national recommendations for what children and adults should be able to do in the water. And this comes after around 100 people drown every year. And, well, yeah, whenever you go out to the harbor, there's always people swimming. So I think it's good that now we have these official recommendations in Denmark that can be used, for example, by swimming schools or sports associations to know whether someone, you could say, meets the minimum criteria to be safe in the water on their own, or if they're a child, in their case, with an adult. So do you go swimming a lot?
No, I don't. And I was reading these recommendations. So for adults, the recommendations are you should be able to swim 200 meters continuously without aids, including 25 meters on your back. I don't really know what 200 meters is in water. I don't really know what it is on land either.
I have no frame. I have no frame of reference.
You need to be able to float, turn, and tread water for 3 minutes in deep water. I think I could do that. I think I'd be fine. Enter and exit deep water safely. Maybe. I think I have gone, I live on Aarhus, the O with the seatbelt, because I often say that wrong. And there's a lot of stairs that just go straight into the ocean, so you can jump in. I've done that a couple of times. It's cold. I don't like it, but you can do it. That's been fine. Swim underwater for at least 5 meters and retrieve an object from 2 meters depth. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at getting down far. I kind of float back up, and I don't know how to stop doing that. Assist an unconscious person in the water using a flotation device. I have learned this when doing stand-up paddleboarding, but if I don't have a stand-up paddleboard, I don't know how helpful I would be in that situation. And then recognize an emergency, call 112, assess breathing, perform CPR, and place someone in the recovery position. I do know how to do that, but it sounds very stressful. I don't know how I'd respond in the moment, but I would try.
No, exactly. I can do it on the dummy, but could I do it in real life? I don't know, and there's no way to really check.
Yeah, and I do think, great to have the recommendations. No problem with having the recommendations, and I think, it's obviously... In Denmark, you're never more than 50 kilometers away from water. And coming from Ireland, we have a similar problem. Just the fact that there is so much water, people do drown. And I can think of kind of 5 people I know off the top of my head who don't know how to swim. And just on an island nation, we shouldn't have that. It should be a critical skill that everyone gets to have. But it is okay, I'm an adult in Denmark. I know I can do some of this. I don't know if I can do all of it. How do I check? How do I know if it's safe for me to go and swim? I need like the diabetes truck, a swimming truck for me, and someone to just tell me, can I do it or can I not?
Can you be in the water safely on your own?
You have to just have a big truck with a pool. It's get in, we'll see if you die.
Swim. But I think that it's also quite nice that they made these 5 swimming tips for children, which is, I thought it was funny. The first swimming tip was learn to swim. Okay.
Good.
I guess I knew that already. The second one was never go alone in the water. And by the way, this is translated directly from Danish, so it's not... I guess it sounds better in Danish. The third one was read the wind and the water. The fourth one was get to know the beach. And the fifth one is don't let others out of sight, which are all pretty, I would say, common sense rules.
You would think, but they have to make the rules for a reason.
Yeah, there's probably some person who didn't follow that. But I think it's quite nice that they divided these recommendations into very small children, basically between 0 and 6 years old, up to 12 years old, and then anyone above 18. So basically anyone can have some recommendations and know whether they're safe or not. And according to a survey that's been done, 43% of adults in Denmark are able to do that, which is concerning that more than half cannot follow these swimming recommendations.
Did you know that the Last Week in Denmark newsletter is available in 8 languages? Hey there, This is Fionn from the Last Week in Denmark podcast, and every week you guys are tuning in to hear me and my fellow co-hosts talk about the top news of the week in English. But let's be real, we're all internationals, so not only are you speaking English every day, you're probably also speaking a bit of Danish, but you've probably also got your own native language as well, like the multilingual master you are. So why not treat yourself to the luxury of being able to read Danish news each week in your own native language? So head on over to lastweekdk.substack.com, that's lastweekdk.substack.com, and sign up for our newsletter delivered to you every single Sunday.
Concerning, but I don't know that I'm surprised, in the sense that, I don't know what it's like in Copenhagen, but when I think about Aarhus, there's 2 swimming pools that I can get to. One is kind of a 30-minute walk, a 20-minute bus. It's open at weird times. Like they kind of change the opening times depending on the time of year. And it's a standard swimming pool, I would say. Then there's a much bigger swimming pool, but I think it's like an hour away from me. So in terms of like access to pools, I obviously have access to the sea. I'm very close to the sea. But like that, now I don't know. I should be getting in the sea. Is it safe? And there's no lifeguards or anything. It's just people getting in the water and getting out of the water. And they just kind of trust that you know your own limits. But I'm also, if you're not a confident swimmer, I don't think this is accessible or affordable for a lot of people. So just for example, it's not proper swimming lessons, but my partner is pregnant and she's doing just pregnancy or like water exercises while she's pregnant. And for 6 weeks, so 6 sessions over 6 weeks, it's 900 kroner. And it's, it's good for her. And we obviously want her to exercise, but that is expensive. And, it's that kind of, if I'm not good enough at swimming and I need someone to teach me how to swim, how affordable is that for people to now get this skill? And then it's also that case of like, if I'm an adult who can't safely swim, how can I keep my children safe? Because, okay, they're not going to go in the water alone, but how can I help them if they're in distress? So while I really like the recommendations, I think it's so, so important, particularly because there is so much water in Denmark and it is obviously a problem. I also think Denmark is kind of averse to putting up barriers around water. Like I remember when I first arrived in Copenhagen, because I was in Copenhagen first before I moved here, and I went to the lakes and there are no barriers. And I was just like, I was really like intrusive thoughts. I'm just like, I could push anybody in here. And then when you say that out loud, people are worried you're going to push them in. But it's the same with Aarhus, all along the waterfront. They've started putting in barriers the last few years, but I still think they're too short. But there's a lot of places, like there's a really nice kind of boardwalk right across from where I live. It's called Bassen 7 and it's super cute. It's right by the water. We have this kind of like public swimming pool that's in the sea. And then there's like restaurants and cafes and stuff, but there's a very thin road for people to walk and like kind of get to these things. And there's just open water all along the side. And I'm always just like, it would take 3 seconds for a child to run, trip, and fall in there. So I do think the recommendations are great. It feels a little empty when there's no kind of follow-up of, does everybody have access to a pool? Or I even know, I was talking to my partner about this, in the schools, they provide swimming lessons, which is great. It's an essential skill. It should be taught in schools. But there's not always the appropriate facilities. So, for example, with the school that she is working in at the moment, they have access to a pool, but it's 20 minutes away. So they have to drive 20 minutes. Then they only have time for really 15 minutes in the pool before they have to come back out so they can get back in time for the next class. So it is like, good idea, bad execution in the sense of, do we have the facilities to make sure people have these skills?
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to get your hair wet for 15 minutes, right?
And then it's like you have to get changed and you have to get
priorities.
It's like, all right.
Well, yeah, also when it was the winter and there was the ice on the lakes, it was also like, sure, there was a sign, don't go ice skating because you might fall in, but there wasn't anyone to like enforce that sign, so people were still going. But I guess that's what you get for a high trust society. And
do you know how to swim? Is swimming big in Poland?
It is, yeah, but I was just saying, me coming from not a high trust society is always fascinating, but I don't know if I could swim 200 meters. Like, when I was a kid, my kind of frame of reference was that my dad is 2 meters, so I guess that would be like 100 of my dad. But I can't really visualize that.
No, I also struggle to visualize that. It's just of a man. I did as well. So I learned swimming as a child, and I think I got the little badges to put on my swimming hat, which was very exciting. But then I didn't swim for a long time, and then I was working in a place that had a swimming pool right beside it. So it was a gym with a swimming pool, and my job was very boring. So I would go in there and I would swim at lunch. And while I could swim perfectly well, so you get from one side of the pool to the other, no problem, I kept swallowing water, and I kept being like, kind of halfway there, and I was like, I'm like drowning myself. Like, what's happening? So I did get a swimming lesson to be like, why is this happening? And the guy was basically like, when you come up for air on your left side, you're not coming out of the water enough, so just don't do that. So I only come up for air on the right side now. So there's things like that too, or like you can have the skill and not realize that you can't do it properly, like me.
Interesting. Well, I guess speaking of water and unnecessary water usage, we can move on to our next topic, which is AI.
Oh my God, what a good segue. Good job.
Yeah, it took me a long time to think of it. I was like, I have to say something smart for the last episode of season 5. So artificial intelligence skills have already, as we all probably know, found their way into teaching curriculums in schools, raising questions about what quote unquote good AI usage looks like. The increasing development of AI is expected to change a lot of industries, starting with entry-level jobs in the IT sector. And that's why IT schools in Denmark are adapting their curriculum to equip their students with the skills needed for what is basically going to happen in the future. So I guess you could say, in a way, that both of us work in the IT sector, although I feel like IT is a bit of a boomer word to use. B2B SaaS, or how much do you use AI in your daily job?
My company is obsessed with AI. We're actually, I think, in terms of the sector that we're in is learning management performance systems. And we are actually a leader in terms of using AI within HR and learning and development. So, which is really cool. And we are doing a lot of really cool things with AI. So I tell my customers to use all of our AI tools because they're very cool. Or I show them and I'm like, don't use this yet, but it will be very cool in 6 months. Personally, I use it mostly to come up with puns. Yeah, I feel like
nice.
Often the amount of work, I know it's useful, and I have kind of ideas of where it could be useful. So for example, I'm a customer success manager, so I often part of my job is talking to customers, getting feedback, getting what they don't like about the system, what needs to be changed. And I think AI could be really, really useful for kind of looking at, okay, what are the trends? So, but for that, I needed to go into my emails, look at everything I've promised, write a summary for me and bring it. And I just haven't gotten to the place where I fully get how it all connects. So I think in terms of like useful ways that I use it myself in work, not so much, but there's so much pressure to use it. And I'm just like, I just don't know where it's helpful. Particularly like my job is focused on relationships with people as well as knowledge of the product. And the best way to learn about the product, in my opinion, is to go and do it, not read about it from a robot. Also, the robot lies. And then when it comes to people, I'm like, I would change how I talk to every person that I speak to, whether it's in person or by email. So I do use a note taker, which is really, really useful. But I still write my own notes. I'm old.
Me too.
It's how I remember. I don't know how to do it if AI does it.
Exactly. And like you want to write down what you actually want to write down, what you think is important, and not what the robot thinks
also is not good at picking up when I'm being funny. I feel like it's tried to catch me out a few times. And luckily my manager is really fun, but he sent me like a screenshot of where it said, Katie has promised to harass the product team about the assessments. And I was like, I was being funny. Or there was another one where like, and as a joke. So I was saying like, this guy had come back from holiday and I was like, oh, have you had that many emails? And he said, oh yeah, not too many, but I'm making my way through. And I was like, if you just delete them, then people don't come back to you as quickly. And we laughed. And I said, oh no, this call is being recorded. And the AI thing was like, Katie joked about deleting emails, then panicked that the call was being recorded. And I was like, speak panic. I'm just really funny.
It's just such a snitch, honestly. That's the problem. Who is the AI working for? Yeah. A lot of people are saying that AI is like when back then the steam engine or electricity was invented, it altered the way people did things in such a huge way. And I think that's kind of what's happening here right now, where nothing is ever going to be the same as it was. And yeah, I think people haven't really found the balance yet of I don't want to outsource my thinking and I want to be more efficient. Like there has already been studies where people were like scientists were seeing how people's brains work when they use a lot of AI, and the brain just stops working. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's so much less active when you use AI because you just don't need to think anymore. So I think, of course, we should use this tool because it is going to change everything in a monumental way. But I think the question is, how do we use it without just like not destroying our brains?
True. And I think this topic raises some really important points. Firstly, that kind of, when we all started working, we were useless. We didn't know how to do anything, and I do think schools and universities have gotten a little bit better at preparing you for work. But like when I went into my first job, I was clueless. And even I had done a lot of internships, but being an intern is so different to having like a full-time job with like these responsibilities that are only yours and no one is like checking up on you. And they often start you off with the simple stuff because you're useless. And then you learn, you make your mistakes on the simple stuff and you move on. And I think it's a really valid point that when you come out and you don't know anything, how do you learn those skills if AI is managing every email inbox? How do you learn how annoying people are and how to deal with that?
Exactly. And you just have like the main times where I learned something about life was when I made a mistake and I broke something. And if you never get the chance to make a mistake because we're expected to be better and better and almost perfect with AI, you're never going to know what to do. So I guess that's a bit concerning. What I thought was quite interesting was that they were writing in the article about there's a media college in Viborg, and they are one of the first to have AI in their curriculum. And I think they did it in quite a cool way where students can use AI in an exam, but they have to be able to explain how they used it and not just use it brainlessly. And then it is actually considered cheating if they cannot explain what the thought process was or where the information came from. And it's also considered plagiarism if the written elements don't come from the student. And I think that's a very cool way to approach it because then you actually have to really look deep into what the AI is saying to you. And I think in that case, you might at some point realize that, the AI is actually not so good. I can see that myself when I prepare for the podcast. I don't use a lot of AI because I think it's just so much better to go down a rabbit hole on your own, the old-fashioned way.
That's where you find the fun facts.
Instead of having an AI do it for you. Exactly. That's how the puns go and get into your head.
I just know I'm not creative enough to come up with puns. I have a friend who's so good. Like, she comes up with them right away, and I just want to be that, but I'm just like, I think I'm not creative enough, and I'll just be like, we'll just call ourselves the team. We don't need a fun name, something like that. But just speaking of kind of teachers and how they bring in AI, I feel like that's probably the most challenging place for this topic. Like when it comes to AI, how do we use it? How do we prepare for it? Because I think the like easy aspects of it are so applicable to day-to-day work, particularly like office work. Like what do we do? In the sense that it's like, write this email. I'll look at it. If I hate it, I'll just rewrite it and I'll change it. Same with like documents. Like it's always easier to have something that you go, I hate these things, so I'm going to change it. And then you go from there. But I think in teaching, it's so hard to know, both in the sense of, like, I agree with you, this is definitely going to fundamentally change how a lot of things in the world work. But will we notice it so much in the sense that, okay, it'll manage inboxes, but if you've ever used one of those AI support chats, you're still going to need people to speak to you on the phone. You're still going to need people to explain your bill, things like that. But when it comes to school, it's do you prepare them for AI taking over the world and it basically doing all of our jobs going forward? Or do you prepare it for it's going to do the menial tasks? So we need to have a bit more kind of critical thinking and analysis skills. And similarly, it sounds great what they're doing in Viborg. Like, I think that's really, really important to include it somewhere because people are going to use it. Like, why wouldn't they? But teaching them how to use it responsibly and in a way that's useful and isn't going to work against them. Like some TV advertisements at the moment, you're like, everyone can see it's AI. Stop doing this. That I do think we need to get better at seeing what AI is, because like that, it's kind of like, if the text is found to be AI, and it's like, okay, but how do you test that? So sometimes it's real easy. My partner's a teacher and she has this big problem at the moment where students use AI to submit their assignments, but they luckily don't proofread, and it'll reference like, French philosophers from the 18th century. And she's like, we have not covered this. You do not know who this person is. There was a student recently that she was like, I think you used AI, this is why. And he was like, no, I got my sister to help me. And it's like, that's still cheating. You're still cheating if you asked your sister.
But it's better cheating. It's organic cheating. It's so much better.
It's the old-fashioned way.
Oh, exactly. There's also, I saw this thing where, I mean, there's these softwares online where you can check if something is AI, and people start putting like Shakespeare plays in it or something. And because Shakespeare was using the M dash, it automatically said it was AI.
It.
So, yeah, but I think there's other ways that you can tell. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Shakespeare. But I think what's also interesting that was in the article was that we were expecting AI to make us lose all of our jobs, basically, and like live under the reign of robots. But actually, unemployment in the past year in Denmark, it has increased a bit for the IT industry, but it's still far below for the economy being in crisis. And also, it's not 100% sure that it's correlated to that and not something else. So I think for now, we're safe. And I also think that moving forward, a lot of these human skills like empathy and emotional intelligence will become more and more important, which is good news for us because we're great people. So, well, speaking of great people, I think that brings us to our last topic, which is a very heartwarming story. And I don't think there's much to say about it, but we can still talk about it. It's a story that reminds me of why I love Denmark so much. So there's a couple who got married last week in Nordhavn, and like right after the wedding, they lost a ring in the water. And they actually got unexpected help from a stranger who was very good at swimming. So I guess he followed the recommendations. Have you heard about this story?
I didn't hear about it until I was looking it up for this podcast, but I love a good Samaritan news story. I also want to be this person. I don't have any useful skills, so I'll never be able to jump in. But just imagine being like, I'm going to help them find that wedding ring. Because what a nightmare. And imagine as well, I feel, particularly because it was the groom, because I feel like if it was the bride, you'd be like, oh my God, that's so sad. I hope she's okay. But with the groom, you're like, oh, typical man. Can't even keep track of his wedding ring. And the same day, like, oh, what was he doing? Was he in the water?
True.
Like,
and
what happened? Did you not check that it fit?
Exactly. Yeah, why were you swimming on your wedding day? No, but it was really cute because he found... Yeah, so the ring fell in the water, and then he found the diver on Facebook, right? And
no problem.
And the diver just came up like, yeah, I'll find the ring. And he found it in under 6 minutes. Yeah, exactly, which was crazy. And I think it's just so cute because like it's just such a cute story too of, oh, I lost the ring, but our love was so strong that we found it again.
Thanks to the man in the wetsuit. Key to a good marriage.
Exactly. Yeah, and I didn't even know that there was all these diving and swimming associations in Denmark where you could just find them on Facebook and be like, oh, can you fish my ring out of the water?
Good initiative
please?
On the groom to go and find someone who could go in the water for more than a few minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently the guy who was the diver, it was not the first time that he fished out a ring for someone. This was the second time this happened. So it does seem to be much more common than we think, I guess. So that's quite interesting. Yeah. I guess that's all there is to say about the story. I feel like a lot of our topics today were water related, I guess because the summer is coming and that's why we all subconsciously...
Well, you really made the AI one water related. So I feel that's a little on
I really pushed that one.
But it's summertime.
Exactly. I mean, it's it's the last episode of season 5, so we had to have some red thread around everything. I feel like it's a big responsibility for us to do the last episode of this season. Do you have any last thoughts or puns even or comments which you would like to leave the listeners with?
No, I haven't prepared. Oh no. No, but I suppose it's always a nice time to kind of mention everybody who works behind the scenes. We're obviously the voices of the podcast, but there's a huge team that does all the research. We have our podcast manager, the other co-hosts, Narcissus, who manages, I think, everything.
Basically, yeah.
And there's so many people who bring this together to bring news to Denmark, and then of course to thank our listeners so that we can keep doing this podcast into big microphones.
It's so fun to talk, but it would be nice if someone listened.
Yes, that does make it better.
Exactly. So the plan is to come back in around mid-August with season 6. And until then, we hope that everyone enjoys their summer and maybe goes back to listen to some of the old episodes. And we will come back rejuvenated and hopefully suntanned.
Don't really know that my skin does that. I might be sunburned.
Nah, that's what counts. That's okay. It's a nice shade of pink.
It's changing color of skin.
Well, thank you so much for today, and I'll see you again in August.